President Putin himself is expected to run for yet another term next March. And one woman hoping to unseat him is widely referred to as the Paris Hilton of Russia. She's Ksenia Sobchak, now a member of the opposition. She's been a socialite, a reality TV star, a model and a talk show host. And her father was once mentor to Putin, bringing him into politics from the KGB back in St. Petersburg. Many in Russia assume that Sobchak is the token Kremlin-approved opposition candidate, running to spice up and legitimize an election that President Putin seems very likely to win. So what is her platform? Let us ask Ksenia Sobchak, who joins me now from Moscow. Ms. Sobchak, welcome to the program. Is it fair to say that you are the Kremlin-approved candidate, that you're just there to give President Putin a different face to run against?
It's a lie, and as you said when introducing me, it's not a lot of people thinking like this. It's just some people who do not like me to take part in those elections. They make this kind of rumors go. So I don't think it's quite relevant to say that many people think that, because many people support me. And moreover, you mentioned Paris Hilton. Please let me know, because I don't remember when her house was raided, when her money were taken by police, as it was made in my case some years ago.
Let me ask you that.
When she was put in prison for her political position.
So let me ask you that. You raise a legitimate point. In Russia, in Moscow, having, you know, the police look into your affairs, having been arrested, is a rite of passage for opposition politicians. Do you believe that that is part of what gives you some weight, some legitimacy?
No, I think what gives me legitimacy is my fight against the regime for the last 6 years. I was amongst those people of Russia who came out to protest. I was amongst those journalists who made a lot of work on independent Russian TV to show the reality of Putin's regime and of Putin's administration. So I was one of the opinion makers who were making huge journalistic reportages, interviews, and other kinds of work that helped to reveal the cases that now are well known among Russian people, connected to corruption, connected to the Putin regime, and to what's going on in Russia now.
Okay, so let me dig into this. Let me just...
This is how I...
Sorry, I understand you're trying to get your point across. Obviously you're facing all sorts of you know, public questions. So the person who brought you in to the political world, and that was, as you mentioned, the protests in 2011, Oleg Kashin, and you spoke very eloquently at the protest there. He's now saying that Putin sees no glory in defeating the usual run of puppet buffoons. That's why the Kremlin seeks fresh faces each time. The fresh face this time will be Miss Sobchak. So I know that you don't like that, but I guess part of it is to ask you, do you have any real chance of going against Putin?
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment about the fresh face, because I really think that Russia needs a young face, a new generation to be seen on the political stage. But answering your question, I think I can really make people go and vote against the system, voting for Ksenia Sobchak. So this is my idea to unite all the democratic forces, all the people with whom I worked and whom I supported all those years, including Navalny, including Yavlinsky and other democratic leaders. My idea is to make a huge democratic coalition, and that people go and legitimately vote against the system, against Putin, and therefore we will see the result that I hope will be quite big, and that will be a change to the whole political system. Because one thing, if they see that there is couple of percent. And another thing, if they see that millions of people voted against Putin in this democratic opposition way.
So you mentioned Alexei Navalny, who is drawing lots of people at rallies, but who looks like he will be prevented from running for all sorts of technical reasons that you know better than anybody. He has said that it is fairly loathsome Kremlin game that goes by the title of "Let's put a liberal laughingstock up for the elections in order to distract attention." I mean, this is a lot of criticism you're facing, and you have said that you would withdraw your candidacy if Navalny is allowed to run. You know, I feel awful beating up on you, but how are you going to take this?
First of all, this saying by Navalny was done before I went to challenge Putin on those elections. Now, when he knows the concept and he knows that I officially said that I will withdraw my candidacy if he will be allowed to go, I think this will change the whole game. But we should have a backup option. I spoke with Navalny, and I hope he will agree with me that if he won't be allowed to go to the elections, which I think he should be allowed, and I will be really fighting for this. But if no, what is our second option? Just stay at home and don't go to the election? It's not an option. This will show nothing to Kremlin. This will change nothing. But we do remember how elections, for example, in Pinochet's case, changed the situation, because if many people go out and vote against, this can really bring change to our country, which we really need.
I think nobody would dispute that, and you obviously are very passionate, and you obviously have a lot of attraction to young people, since you're very well known. Obviously, I need to ask you, I said your father was Putin's mentor. You were seen at the side of Putin recently, and people say that you asked him for his approval to run, and certainly the Kremlin has not opposed you. What do you say to that?
Well, I don't want to comment lies. I don't need anyone's approval for going to elections. It's my decision, and it was made by me. Being a journalist for many years, the last year I did a big documentary, and I'm still in the process of finishing it. A big documentary about my father, about first democratic leaders of Russia. And during those documentary, I interviewed many politicians that worked with my father, including Mr. Putin. So this was the only meeting we had. And on this meeting, I found it's appropriate to say face-to-face that I will challenge Putin on these elections. But I don't need any admittance, or I don't need to ask about this.
So what did he say?
This is my decision.
What did he say? Go for it, Ksenia. Good luck. What did he say when you said, I'm going to challenge you?
No, he didn't really like it, I think, because he said, well, it's a decision of any person who makes it, but it's also a big burden that you should be responsible for in this case.
And what
this was his answer. But I think it's always good to say face-to-face if you have a chance.
And very quickly, lastly, what would your platform be? There are terrible relations between Moscow and the United States right now, all the allegations of Moscow interfering in the democratic process in the West, the sanctions over Ukraine, Crimea. What is a platform that you're going to run on?
I already said it and want to make it known to American public. First of all, I think that Russia is responsible for those awful international relations that were created. We offensed the international law, and the Crimea is Ukrainian by international law. This is very important, which I want to stress, and this is my position. But also, I want to say to America that please divide, that Putin is not Russia. Russia is big and many people do not support his policy. And one thing, when you punish some oligarchs that are connected with Putin, with sanctions and everything, and this is a right thing to do, I support those sanctions. But another thing that, for example, now students in Russia cannot get American visa, and this is not fair to them, because why Russian people should be punished for the politics of the